Welcome, Bronco Nation, to my preview for Boise State versus Utah State. I know it seems like we just finished reviewing the Wyoming game, but this is an early week here. This is a short week for Boise State, so we've got to get right into previewing this matchup. Boise State coming into playing Utah State on Friday, and it's not just early in the week, it's also early in the day. It's going to be at 10 a.m., so have your favorite breakfast tailgating food ready to go, or if you're watching from home, get that cereal ready, because this is going to be an early matchup for those on the mountain coast, and also even on the East Coast. I mean, it's going to be right there first on the docket there for the set of games that you're going to have a chance to watch, and it's going to be on CBS, so a big time channel. Boise State, Utah State, definitely going to be getting a lot of airtime. This is a chance for Boise State to come in here and show the nation what it has been able to turn itself around and achieve. Both of these teams, of course, celebrating big things coming into this matchup. Last week, Boise State securing their spot in the Mountain West Championship game. Utah State last week winning against San Jose State, earning their way into bowl eligibility. Now that, however, leaves this game with a little bit of a shallow, empty feeling, a little bit of a meaningless vibe almost, because, you know, in the grand scheme of things, winner of this game is not going to get anything other than the pride that comes out from going and beating the opponent next to you. So both of these teams are going to have to dig a little bit deeper to find that motivation, find that extra motivation to come in here. Obviously always motivated to win, but both teams are, to find that extra motivation to come in and win this game. We'll talk about some of those reasons that Boise State should be very motivated to win this matchup when we get to key three, so make sure you stick around right to the end of the video. But like we talked about, this is an early game, so let's get right into previewing this. Boise State, like I said, 8-3. Utah State 6-5. 10 a.m. Mountain Central Time on Friday. CBS Sports Network. Actually, not CBS Sports. My bad. This is CBS. This is the big station. Boise State getting a chance to air on a station that everybody will, you know, they stumble out of bed after that turkey coma on Friday and turn the television on, and oh, it's Boise State versus Utah State. Here's a chance for Boise State to maybe present themselves to people who maybe wouldn't otherwise have watched their games this season. And I'm actually doing this video so early that I don't have the Vegas line up, but I do have the ESPN prediction. 90.1% favored Boise State over Utah State. Series history. These two teams actually have quite an in-depth series history. I believe as far as Mountain West teams go, only Nevada comes close as far as overall record series history going back as far as these two teams playing. So Boise State has quite an in-depth history here with Utah State. 21-5. Boise State owning the series 21-5. But the first ever matchup was in 1975. Utah State winning that game 19-42. So they got off to quite a good start in the matchup. Boise State, however, in 1977 would get the win back, 23-16. They went back and forth a little bit there, and then in 98, Boise State won and didn't stop winning through 2014, 12 straight wins. In 2015, Utah State got another big win in the matchup, and then there were 6 straight wins, including last year, 2021, when Boise State came in and shocked Utah State. Now, at the beginning of the year, it didn't seem like a shocker. You know, Boise State came in and they won kind of a drug-out match, 27-3, but at the end of the year, especially the way that Boise State finished with the 7-5 record and Utah State on the way to the Mountain West Championship game, you looked back and you went, wow, that was actually a really good game, and that was definitely one of the feathers in the caps for Boise State last year. Chance for them to get maybe not as significant a win this week, but a chance to get that win and improve to 9-3 overall, which would be a huge accomplishment here for Boise State. Key players in this game. I'm actually going to focus on some secondary players for Boise State. Obviously, you know, the stars, Taylor Green, George Holani, J.L. Skinner, you know, the big names are going to be key players in this matchup. But I'm going to focus on some guys because this is a secondary game, you know, for both of these teams. This is a game that Boise State doesn't want to necessarily go out and reveal all their cards versus Fresno State go out and play all of their energy. So there might be a chance for some secondary players to get a chance to appear in this matchup. And hopefully if Boise State can get out to an early lead, you might see these guys as well. But I'm going to talk about some players who I think could have a significant impact on this game, but aren't necessarily your go-to starters. First, here's going to be Elelyon Noa. This is a running back who he played well when he was introduced into the season. I mean, he wasn't going to overtake Genty and Holani as a starter, but he has definitely shown that he has something to contribute, and he has had 0 carries in the last 3 games. I don't think it's injury related. He was still out returning kick returns, though not last game. That was taken away from him last game, so he might have had some form of injury. I haven't gotten any clarification on that. But Elelyon Noa, a player who I would like to see get more carries, especially in this game where you don't want Genty and Holani necessarily to be taking every single snap and maybe getting one of those freak injuries, and the running back position is always a spot that can take an injury unexpectedly. So I would like to see Noah take a little bit of a larger workload in this one. 31 carries for 123 yards, but he runs hard, and he definitely, I mean, it is a difference gap there between what Genty and Helani bring, who are next level NFL talent caliber backs. But Noah is also a very, very capable running back who shows a lot of burst and good energy, and I'd like to see him get some more opportunities in this one. My secondary player here, and this is a guy who's actually earning a start on special teams. Last week, the reserve running back, and he might see some opportunities in the late fourth quarter in this game, depending on how it goes. But in special teams, he's actually earning himself a little bit of a niche here. Caden Dudley, 3 returns, had a 30-yard average per return last game, and along with 34, he looked very, very good in the return. I thought that he was finding some openings, that he was very, very quick, not just in his speed, but his lateral quickness as well. I would like to see him maybe build on that this week and have maybe an even better returning game. So I think that he is an exciting player who is a secondary player, but earning a role there on special teams. Again, like I said, taking that away from Noah, but that might have some form of injury-related issues. I'm not sure. However, I would like to see Caden Dudley get another explosive play or an explosive game overall here in the special teams, and then maybe get a chance to come in the fourth string and in the fourth quarter. But I think his main role here, special teams, is something he can work on, because Boise State hasn't had that next level kick returner really for, Avery Williams. That was the guy a couple years ago, and then you had Khalil Shakir. But Boise State hasn't found that guy this season. That there's been a couple moments this year. Boise State hasn't had that next level returner this year. Maybe Dudley can find his way into being that guy for Boise State this game and the rest of the few games Boise State has left this year. All right, the last guy here is going to be defensive lineman Cortez Hogan. A guy who got a chance to come in after the injury to George Tarles, and he hasn't necessarily had a major impact yet, but he had a really nice game versus Wyoming. He had 5 tackles versus Wyoming. He's had 11 tackles overall on the season. I think he's a guy who could make a big impact here for Boise State there on that defensive line, and I would like to see him have a big one here versus Utah State, because if he can kind of explode, if he can find his way into being a main contributor, he could kind of take over there from what Tarles was able to bring as far as a pressure aspect goes for this defensive line. All right, key players here for Utah State. Number 1 is going to be their quarterback, Cooper Legas. He was the second string on the roster coming to the season, but after Logan Bonner suffered a season-ending foot injury, he ended up taking the start. 1,159 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Nothing super impressive, but in the last 6 games, he has taken Utah State to win 5 of those 6 games to get to bowl eligibility. Has been a big part of that. Had a great game last week versus San Jose State. 35-31 win there for San Jose State. He passed for 247 yards. Did have 2 picks, only 1 touchdown. But overall, he was a player who has been able to. He is a player who's been able to make a major impact here for this Utah State team and at least manage the game. Very good game manager and able to get Utah State those wins. A lot of close wins, but able to eke out those wins and get them to bowl eligibility. He is going to need to have a big game versus Boise State. He's also a capable runner, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's not Taylon Green, but he is definitely someone that Boise State's going to have to consider in the running game. Now let's talk about someone who is more than just a capable runner. Running back Calvin Tyler Jr. here, 978 yards rushing on the season, 6 touchdowns, 4.5 yard average. He had 3 touchdowns, season first, 3 touchdowns versus San Jose State, and 125 yards on the ground. This is a very, very fast downhill runner who can definitely hurt you. Like I said, he's averaged over 4.5 yards or 4.5 yards carries on the season. He's almost up to 1,000 yards this year with the questions in the quarterback position there, because you bring in a guy who's a second string. He's got to work his way into building that momentum and that energy in the locker room and with the offense overall. They have leaned on Tyler, and he has performed well this season. He's going to be a guy Boise State's going to need to focus on, because really they weren't able to stop Wyoming. I mean, anything Swen wanted to do against Boise State, he was able to. Boise State's going to need to make those corrections this week and stop Tyler if they're going to want to have success defensively against the running game. And then the third key player here for Utah State is going to be wide receiver Brian Cobb, 6'2", 210, built a little bit more like a linebacker there, but 6'2", 210. He has 769 yards receiving on the season, 4 touchdowns. He's definitely had a very, very good year for Utah State. 10 receptions for 122 yards overall versus San Jose State. Did have a couple of key drops, but overall, he's definitely been a main target here, regardless of who's at quarterback, but definitely when Lagos is in the game, he's a guy that he is looking to as their main target. If Boise State can shut him down, force Utah State into the running game, and do better. I mean, they were much better early on in the season stopping the run. Get that strength back in the running game. Take away Brian Cobbs. That is a recipe for success here for Boise State defensively in this matchup. All right, keys to the game here. 3 keys to the game for Boise State in a game that, honestly, you're looking to try and find not necessarily ways to win, because I think the path to winning is pretty clear. We've talked about what Boise State does well in getting that win, but maybe looking at how to address this game in light of the Mountain West Championship game next week, in light of the fact that this game needs to find importance, but at the same time doesn't need to be elevated to such a high importance that you then sacrifice Fresno State. So how does Boise State address this game? Well, number one here is going to be focus. Mountain West Championship game is next week, December 3rd. Well, not next week now in this video, but after this football game. December 3rd, Boise State going to play Fresno State, a revitalized Fresno State team with Jake Haener back. That is going to be a very, very tough game. Right now, really, it could go either way, but they need to focus on this matchup. Boise State, we're going to talk about it here in Key 3, but there are some very important things they're playing for in this game. They need to focus on getting this win one game at a time. You know, the coaching staff will be railing about that, and we'll have this team ready to go. But the players are, they're human beings, and they're kids in college, and you know that they're looking for ahead to that game and going, that is a big opportunity to go and win a Mountain West Championship game, which, none of these players, I'd have to do my math back, but very few of these players, especially underclassmen, have had that experience of winning a Mountain West Championship game, because last year, Boise State wasn't in it, and the year before that, Boise State lost to San Jose State. So most of these underclassmen here haven't had an opportunity to go out and win a Mountain West Championship game. It's been since 2019 that Boise State was able to go get that done. So a lot of these guys on the team, some of the seniors and juniors, some of the seniors, they'll have been part of that. They'll remember that. But a lot of these guys, a lot of these underclassmen, this is a big thing for them. So they're looking to that. They are looking forward to the future, and you know that's going to happen with any team. But they need to focus on this one. Go out, get the win versus Utah State. Not just getting the win, but you want to get a big win, because a couple of things. First off, you're on national TV. You want to be able to get a big win that is exciting and gets people talking about Boise State. You're always talking not just short-term factors, limited focus, but in college football, it's always about the long-term game, the big-term game, what each game means to building your fan base and your national reputation as a whole. So that is very important. I'm kind of giving away a little bit of my third key here. But that's very important. But the second thing here is that if you can get off to a big start here, get a big lead in the first half, you can rest your starters in the second half so you come in fresh and ready to go versus Fresno State. So Boise State being focused, especially early, getting off to a nice big lead, and then maybe coasting the rest of the way. That's a big recipe here for Boise State, but it all starts with focusing in on this game one game at a time and ending the season on the right note. Second key here is going to be avoid injuries. It kind of plays off of that first key. If you do the first key, then you can do the second key. If you get off to a big lead, if you focus, then you can avoid injuries because you can rest your key starters. But it's a little bit more than just resting your starters. You also need to attack this game with a little bit of a different mindset versus playing your best players the whole game and leaning on them like you usually would. Leaning on George Halani for most of the game, leaning on Taylor Green, maybe using his legs in the running game. You don't want to do that this game. You want to run Halani, you want to keep him fresh and in the game, but you also want to have a heavy mix of the backups there, and a heavy mix of a guy who's, it's almost, you can't really call him a backup because of what a key role he plays in the offense, but Genty, you need to have both those guys involved in the game, especially to get out to that early lead, a even mix of those guys. You shouldn't be seeing George Halani with 25 carries and Genty with like 9. You should be seeing like Halani with like 14 and Genty with like 12, back and forth, mixing those guys in, even if it means killing the momentum a little bit so that they are staying fresh the whole game, and you're limiting the amount of hits that each of them is taking so that you're not allowing for injuries to catch you in this one before you get to Fresno State. And then mixing in Noah into that mix. I mean, even right early in the first half, and then especially the second half, getting those backups in, getting Tyler Crow in, a guy I love seeing on the field, and then, of course, dipping a little bit into those other reserves, and Kane Dudley and beyond. So Boise State mixing in the reserves, not just at running back, at wide receiver, and Usually don't do it at defense, but other key positions, mixing in your reserve players as well. Maybe getting those guys some real game time experience while also not sacrificing the win. So finding a way to come into this game with a little bit more of a focus on using the whole team and using your depth versus coming in and focusing on winning this, with the sharp edge of your offensive attack, maybe a little bit more of a blunt focus, but also then spreading out the pressure throughout your whole team. And then don't run Taylor Green. I mean, that's weird for me to say because I've been the run Taylor Green game. I mean, I think it's run Taylor Green guy. I think it's been key in 3 of my videos. But this game, don't run him. I don't want to see Taylor Green take a single run. If he has an opportunity to maybe run and take a slide, then that's fine. But I don't want him taking a single hit in this game that he can avoid. Even if it's a case of he could run it, but he's going to take a hit. Maybe he just throws the ball away. Maybe he just slides down early. Do not run Taylor Green in this game. Do not put him in a chance where he could get hurt. That would be catastrophic to Boise State right now. Lean on his arm. And again, this is so weird because this has been the opposite of what I've advised Boise State to do. But lean on his arm. This is a good opportunity for Boise State to go to the passing game because, again, the stakes are not super high. You have a chance to mix some different things in here, and you're going up against a Utah State team that has struggled in aspects throughout the year. So you have some opportunities in the passing game, and also the more you lean onto your receivers who are not the focus for your offense. Your offense is a run-based offense. You want to protect the players who are the keys to that, your running backs and your quarterback. The more plays that are in the air that put your wide receivers into the defense's focus, and I'm not going to say harm's way because that's not a good way to look at it, but the more times you are having your receivers taking the focus in this offense, in this game, the less times your running backs are going to have to risk injury. Same for your quarterback in the running game. So a lot of times this is a bad advice. A lot of times you don't want to change up your offensive scheme dramatically for what you're going to put forth versus an important team the next week, because then your players get out of rhythm and then they have to readjust. But the running game doesn't take much to get in rhythm. I mean, it's a pretty simple attack overall. There's some different things that you attack them with as far as zone concepts go and inside and outside runs and that kind of thing, and RPO. There's some different things that you look at there, but overall it doesn't take much to get into rhythm in that, and just really a couple of drives or running the ball is going to get you there. The pass attack is something that takes a while to work into, but that's not Boise State's offense this season. So since it's a run-based offense, they can afford to go away from it for a pass-heavy attack versus Utah State, and also with the assumption that they're going to be more run-heavy versus Fresno State because that is what they're good at. With that assumption, it will give Fresno State less tape to watch of the main Boise State offense as they typically run it, give them less to prepare for, and give you basically your entire playbook of run plays that you can then use effectively against Fresno State, as they were so effective when Boise State played them earlier this season. So avoid those injuries. Mix in the running game with different players. Focus on the passing game. Don't use Taylor Green's legs at all in this game, and allow Boise State to come into Fresno State without taking any key losses in key positions, because it's a team that has been hit, especially recently, by some major injuries. You don't want any more of that as Boise State comes in to face a very, very important game and big challenge versus Fresno State in a couple weeks. All right, key number 3, final key to this game. Play for more than just this game. You're looking for motivation. Obviously, the motivation to go out and win. These are all very, very competitive athletes. I mean, that goes for college football in general, but especially Boise State. You don't come to Boise State unless you have a passion for winning, which is why it's hurt so much that Boise State has not gone out and won, the last couple of seasons. You think that as fans it hurts? Imagine being these players, you look at all the history and the legacy and what Boise State has achieved, and that Bronco that you wear on your chest, the Boise State that you have across the front of your chest there as a Boise State player, and you look at what's happened the last couple of seasons, even though you've gone out and given it your best, that stings, that hurts. And these players are wanting to show that Boise State is back, that they have reestablished themselves. They are going to go out and give their best performance in this game. But so is Utah State. Utah State is also doing that. So you need to find a little bit something extra to go out and say, we're playing for this. Let's find that deeper motivation and go out and win this game. So I'm going to these are mostly in numerical order here. 6 reasons for Boise State, and don't worry, it's not going to take 30 minutes. It's going to be very, very quick. 6 reasons for Boise State to dig a little bit deeper here and win this game. Well, number 1 is senior night. It's senior night. That should be reason enough. That should be wrap up the video. We're done. Senior night on the blue. These guys, it's not been the most highlighted senior class, but you send them out the right way. You give them opportunity to leave with their heads held high, knowing that they put Boise State back on track and that Boise State's headed in the right direction. So senior night, that is the biggest factor overall. Second factor, get to 9 wins. I mean, that's important. This is a team that finished 7-5 last year. Getting to 9 wins in the regular season is huge because it sets you up, first off, for the fact that you got to 9 wins, which is a major step forward from the 7-5, but it also gives you an opportunity to get to 10 wins. If you get to 9 wins now, you have 2 chances to get to 10 wins, which is a big achievement for most programs. I mean, Boise State with their lofty goals of undefeated and which they have achieved in their past, and that is something that Boise State fans root for. But a 10-win program is a good year for almost any team in the FBS, especially the group of 5. And for Boise State, a 10-win season versus what they have in 7-5 would be incredible, especially considering the way they started this year. So getting to 9 wins gives you 2 chances to get to at least 10 wins in this season, either the Mountain West Championship game or the bowl game. This is very big. This is a very big deal and very, very important for Boise State to be able to get to 9 wins and give them that chance to get to 10. Number 3, national audience. Boise State's playing on CBS. You don't want to take a loss. They're not going to understand it. Everybody who sat in and watched the Boise State game and go, okay, they're Mountain West Championship bound. They've won most of their games in the last second half here of the season, only taken 1 loss against a BYU team that can be challenging. Okay. Hey, maybe Boise State's turning some things around. This is going to be exciting, and it's on the blue. People tune in to watch the blue because it's unique and it's interesting. People tune in to watch Boise State play on the blue. You don't want to take a loss when you've got this national audience. This isn't CBS Sports, which some networks you have trouble even finding those depending on where you live. This is not CBS Sports, this is CBS. Everybody is CBS. Everybody will be watching this game. You'll have a major viewership across the nation, especially on the East Coast, where again, it's Friday. You probably still have the day off, your family's around, and you're popping on some football. This is going to be a game that a lot of people are going to watch. Boise State wants to give a good performance in this one because a lot of what sets you up for next year is the national view of you, especially in this system, which is a biased system with the CFP and the AP poll, which ends up playing a bigger role because it establishes how good teams are at the beginning of the year, which then those early season wins impact how the CFP then views teams. So all of that comes into effect, and winning big on national TV helps you establish a tradition of dominance, and it helps you establish a perception nationally that you are a team that is important, that is good, that should be considered for major opportunities. And I'm not just talking conference expansion, I'm talking even just kind of the regular season stuff, like getting to an opportunity to get to a New Year's Six Bowl. So long game, play for that national audience. 4th, play for the blue. Obviously, Boise State hasn't won every game on the blue this year, but they only lost to BYU. They are undefeated in the conference on the blue this year. Don't let that streak end. Boise State has a chance to go undefeated on the blue in conference, which is not something they did last year. 2 losses in conference on the blue. I mean, that really, really hurt. You had Nevada and you had Air Force both beating Boise State on the blue. That's not what you want to do as Boise State ever. You wanted to protect the blue. This is a chance for you to completely reverse that and go undefeated on the blue. That would be a fantastic opportunity for Boise State to be able to come in and get that win. Finally here, actually 2 more here. Play for next season. Get that win streak. Boise State is on a decent win streak here. If they can finish out the season with get these 3 wins, Boise State will come into next year with a good solid win streak there. And when you talk about being able to get those opportunities to go and play in the CFP, College Football Playoff, getting into those top 10 rankings, all of those start with a legacy of winning. Cincinnati only was able to get to that by basically having 2 undefeated seasons. Boise State, if they want to have those opportunities when they've done it in the past, when they've gotten to the top 4 rankings, it's because they went out the first year and went undefeated, and then the second year came in with a large record. And even the year that went undefeated, the years that they've gone undefeated, they've had previous records that they've come into. Those win streaks are important. They are very important for establishing that tradition of winning that you then carry into the next season. And hey, people start to notice. They go, wow, Boise State, when was the last time they lost? Do you remember? Wow, this is a winning team. And again, that human bias starts playing in. So play for the win streak. Boise State needs to get this win, end the season right, come in, Mountain West Championship Bowl game beyond. And then the final one here is play for the discussion. What's the discussion I'm talking about? Play for the New Year's Six discussion. Now, I know everybody's going, they perked up and went, what the heck is he talking about? I'm going to put out another video here. As soon as I'm done making this, I'll put out another video. Does Boise State have a chance of getting into New Year's Six? Watch that video before you leave any comments, before you critique this in any way. Watch that video, see what I'm talking about. But Boise State at least has a chance here, if they win the Mountain West Championship game, to enter into the theoretical discussion about the New Year's Six. And even if Boise State doesn't get into the New Year's Six, which again, watch that video for me to give you my prediction on that, Boise State will at least get people talking about them. And the more people you have talking about your program nationally, the better your odds are of coming in the next year and starting off on the right foot. And it's all about the media. It's all about national perception. That's what drives when your games are. Hey, are people talking about this team? Do they want to watch them? Hey, maybe we should put them on an earlier time slot than 10:30 p.m. on the East Coast. Boise State needs to get that national discussion going again. That's what brings in recruits. That's what brings in viewers. That's what builds the fan base. That's what brings in income. All of those things are important. Getting a Boise State, if Boise State loses this game to Utah State, it's not going to impact their ability to go out to the Mountain West Championship game, but it's going to completely kill even the most small, minute discussion about the possibility of, hey, is this a team that could be in the New Year's Six? Boise State needs to come in, get that win against Utah State. Big win would be better, and then come in versus Fresno State with something maybe to play for on the line. Again, watch that video. Link will be in the description. But those are my three keys. Focus, avoid injuries, play for more than this game. Summarizing this overall, Utah State is bowl eligible. That is awesome. I am so glad that Utah State was able to get to bowl eligibility because they are not playing in desperation mode now. They put it all on the line versus San Jose State. They have gotten to what has become their season goal. They don't have anything else left to play for here, even less than Boise State. Boise State, I listed a lot of things for Boise State to play for. Most of those, in fact, I'd probably say all of those, besides maybe playing for the national audience, don't apply to Utah State. This isn't senior night for them. This isn't a chance to get to 9 wins, and we could go through all of it, but Boise State has a lot more motivation to come in and win this game. Utah State wants to finish their season the right way, but for them, this is not going to change anything other than being able to knock off Boise. I mean, that is a big goal for any Mountain West team. So they'll be motivated. Any Mountain West team that plays Boise State is going to be motivated. A chance to come in and knock off the big dog, the top team in the conference, and a team that is going to the Mountain West Championship game. Because, hey, as an Aggie fan, you could think, all right, if Utah State beats Boise State and then Boise State beats Fresno State, even though Utah State didn't get to the Mountain West Championship game, they beat the team that did. So, kind of inadvertently they're also Mountain West champions this year. You could look, it's a big win for the fan base either way. So Utah State definitely motivated to come in and get this win, but not as motivated, not as will, absolute, desperation will put everything on the line like they would have if they had lost to San Jose State. And now this was the team standing in their way to bowl eligibility. If that was the case, we could see a wild upset here. But Boise State now comes in against a Utah State team that's settled down a little bit, and now has a chance to come in and just play a normal game as they progress to trying to get to the Mountain West Championship game unscathed and rested. So Boise State, this is a Utah State team that's better than they were early in the season. They cannot be underestimated. They could definitely come in here and surprise Boise State, especially with the fact that Boise State's not playing for as much as they would have if they lost to Wyoming last week. So Boise State has a chance here to take a loss, but they're playing at home. They have a lot of things to play for. It's on senior night. Boise State should have a healthy crowd here, even though it's on Friday, so maybe not as healthy as usual, but I mean, this is an excited crowd that's pumped up for Boise State to go in and play in that Mountain West Championship game. I think that they have just a lot more to play for, and this is a tune-up game. Boise State lost to Wyoming. Boise State won versus Wyoming, what was I trying to say? Boise State won versus Wyoming, but they almost lost. Almost lost the game, won it in the last second. They will have so much to tune up that they are going to be using this game as saying, all right, you need to prove that we have fixed these things to go and play versus Fresno State. So they're going to be very, very focused on fine-tuning themselves and using this game as a tune-up. So they're going to be very focused to win in that aspect as well, because they want to prove that they are fixing these things, and those items that were deficits versus Wyoming are going to be focus items this week, which will have you taking on a Boise State team that is laser focused on their deficiencies and coming in ready to prove that they are better than what they were last week. So this is a little bit of a dangerous Boise State team because of the way that they'd won. If they just blown Wyoming out of the water, they might have been a little lackadaisical, but they're not going to be lackadaisical coming into this one. So I'm very excited for this game. I think Boise State can win it. I think if they were, if there was everything on the line, it might be a little bit of a bigger score overall. But Boise State, even though there's some shallowness, some emptiness to this game as far as what it relates to Boise State's goals of Mountain West Championship and beyond, they still have plenty to play for and definitely are going to be focused to win this game after last week's performance versus Wyoming. So Boise State, my final score prediction here is Boise State 34, Utah State 17. A little bit of a maybe lower scoring affair. Boise State definitely could take this away, blow them out of water, and just cruise through to a massive victory. I definitely could see that, but I think we might see a little bit of a lower scoring affair here as Boise State maybe doesn't give all that they've got, give 150% to beat this team, maybe takes a little bit off the pedal as they prepare for Fresno State, but definitely comes in focused and gets this win. So that's my prediction here. Make sure you watch my video that's going to be coming up here, and I'm going to release it right after this one, so they should be out right about the same time. Make sure you watch my video. Could Boise State go to the New Year's Six? Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this game, what your score predictions are, and as always, make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and go Big Blue!